Hello guys and gals, and welcome to another episode of Unique Items. Today we're going to be looking at a bow that is pretty nice, but it's kind of not special. It doesn't have anything like super duper special going for it. Like, it doesn't have amplified damage like Witch Wild String. It doesn't have an extremely high amount of damage like Wind Force. It's not rocking negative cold resistance like Wizen Draw, but it does have its own specific uniqueness about it, which is it's a very nice sort of mediocre bow. It's not like the best of anything, but it's pretty good at just about everything, and that makes it a very interesting choice for a lot of bosons, and that is the Lycander's Aim Ceremonial Bow. The Lycander's Aim Ceremonial Bow has 82 to 173 damage. It has 110 dex requirement, 73 strength requirement, and a level 42 requirement for level. It is a fast bow, but only really because of that 20% increased attack speed, which is on the bow. And it also has +2 to bow and crossbow skills, which is kind of odd because these bows can roll +3. And the +2 to Amazon skills, which makes a total of +4 to bow and crossbow skills and +2 to passives. So very interesting. We also have a 200% enhanced damage, which does vary between 150 to 200%. It's a little bit kind of a big variance there. It also has a flat damage added to the bow of 25 to 50, and 8% mana steal, which varies from 5 to 8%. And that 8% mana steal is very welcome on a bow because, quite honestly, many Amazon skills require way too much mana, and you will find yourself chugging mana potions on the regular. So having a large amount of mana steal on the bow is a pretty nice effect. We also have a 20% enhanced defense, which is rather interesting. That means that when you put the bow on, you get a pretty nice little chunk of defense. So we go from 2,310 here, as you can see, to 2,778. Not bad. We also get 20 to Dexterity, which is also a boost to defense. It also helps our attack rating and our defense, which is kind of nice. And we also get 20 to Energy, which adds about 40 points to our energy pool on an Amazon. Now, this particular bow can also be socketed, and you can throw in something nice. You may or may not want to put in a shale rune, a 15% 40 joule, or maybe something else that you can come up with, like maybe an rune for defenses, resistances. And, this bow can be upgraded, and to upgrade this bow, you are going to need a Pull rune, a Lum rune, and a Perfect Emerald. And when you upgrade this bow, you will end up with the Grand Matron bow. So this bow is going to go from 110 dex, 73 strength, level 42, to 152 dexterity, 108 strength, and 58 requirement on the level, which is actually not a bad upgrade, and it's a pretty solid upgrade for Lycander's Aim. However, if you were going to upgrade this bow, I would recommend that you upgrade one that's closer to the 200% enhanced damage. The mana steal is not going to matter too much with only a 3% variance, but that ED is going to make a pretty big difference on the top end of the bow when you upgrade it. And as you can see, we went from a total of 82 to 173 to 67 to 266. Unfortunately, the bottom end does drop a little bit on Lycander's Aim when you upgrade it, but the top end does go up quite considerably, which is kind of nice. But as you can see here, if I put on the original Lycander's Aim, the Ceremonial Bow, I'm rocking 384 or 512 on my regular shot, and when I put on the Grand Matron, my damage actually goes down a little bit on the bottom end, but it does go up like quite a bit on the top end, which is important to note. Now, the really odd thing about Lycander's Aim is that although it is a really nice bow, there's so many other bows out there that have sort of a special effect that draw you in. If you're an Ice Amazon, for instance, you might be leaning toward Wizen Draw for the negative cold resistance. If you're a highly physical damage boson, you might be leaning toward Witch Wild String for the amplified damage and massive deadly strike effects. If you are a boson who is specifically looking for the highest damage possible, and you happen to have a Wind Force, Wind Force is going to be a superior choice to Lycander's Aim. And so what I usually find about Lycander's Aim is that it's just kind of like a mediocre, middle-of-the-road bow. It's very good, and if you find it, you're probably going to use it, especially if you don't have anything better. But if you were sat like in front of a table and all of the bows were laid out in front of you, Lycander's aim would probably not be the one you would choose, and that's the very interesting thing about this bow, is that despite being a very good, like, all-around bow, it ends up being sort of looked down on because, you know, people are using Wind Force, they're using Wizen Draw, they're using Witch Wild String, they're using all these various bows like Demon Machine Crossbow and Kuko Kashaku and all these things that that have very special effects. Like maybe they have magic arrows that they fire. Maybe they fire guided arrows like Widow. What is it called? Widowmaker. Maybe they fire exploding arrows like Demon Machine. You know, maybe they have amplified damage on them or negative resistances or whatever it is special that the bows have that stand them out from all of the rest. Lycander's aim doesn't have it. The only real thing that Lycander's aim has is some plus to skills, and specifically if that's what you're going for, I could see the plus to skills being useful to you. Now let's talk about really quickly what Lycander's aim is good for. Well, it's decent damage. It's decent plus to skills, it's decent speed, and it has Mana Steal. So it tends to be very nice for characters that are running a freezing arrow or exploding arrow. If you are running a skill-based damage ability, it tends to be very good for those. It's a little mediocre for characters who are running, for instance, like multi-shot or strafe, but it can be useful for those characters. As the plus to skills doesn't do a lot for multi-shot, and it doesn't really do a super large amount for strafe either, because strafe has the unfortunate weapon penalty as well as the not so great increase in damage per level. Although I do know that in the 2.4 patch, they're going to be removing the damage penalty off of strafe, so we shall see. All in all, I think that Lycander's aim is a great bow. Don't get me wrong. I do think that it is a really nice bow, and if you were a bow Amazon and you found a Lycander's aim, use it, because chances are it's probably better than whatever you've got in your hands at the moment. However, if you are a specialized character, if you've got all the bows lined up before you and you're trying to choose which one to use, Lycander's aim is probably not the one you're going to pick, because, you know, each individual bow has their own specialty, and Lycander's aim is just kind of like a middle-of-the-road bow. It's not terrible at anything, and it's not great at anything. It's just kind of decent at everything. So where could you find yourself a Lycander's aim? Let's go over that really quickly, and we'll talk about the best locations to find this bow. So let's look for Lycander's aim. There we go. And we're going to pretend we have 150% magic find, and we're going to look at bosses first. So from bosses, the best probability looks like on a non-quest kill as Diablo in Nightmare difficulty, as well as Mephisto in Nightmare difficulty, and Baal in Nightmare difficulty. So it looks like if you really want a good chance to find this bow, you can farm Baal, Mephisto, and Diablo in Nightmare difficulty. Those are really your best probabilities. It looks like Andoriel in Hell also has a decent chance, and Mephisto in Hell. So very interesting. All the bosses in Nightmare and up have a pretty good chance of dropping this. But if you're specifically looking for this as an Amazon and you don't have a better bow, you're probably going to want to go with the lower level monsters, like, for instance, Nightmare Mephisto might be a better choice. You can moat trick him. So let's look at the super uniques as well. And it looks like the Cow King in Hell has a pretty high chance, but that's a little out of your range if you're looking for this bow to use. Neelithak in Nightmare has a pretty good chance. That's not bad. And Battlemaid Serena in Nightmare has a decent chance. It looks like there are quite a few Nightmare monsters that have decent chances. Even the Nightmare Cow King has a pretty decent chance of 1 in 17,000, which means you're going to have to kill him a lot, but he will eventually drop it. And then let's take a look at regular monsters, and we're going to see the zones. So Worldstone Keep level 3 in Nightmare and Hell difficulty have a pretty high chance of dropping this. Looks like a lot of Worldstone Keep. Let's arrange by probability real quick. So looks like some monsters, just a Dark Ranger in Hell difficulty in Stony Field has a pretty high probability, as well as Skeleton Archers in the Dark Wood. Very interesting. It looks like to me we're looking at a lot of Hell difficulty areas are the highest probability. And then we also have like some of the higher level nightmare zones are being mixed in here. So it looks like your best bet is sort of like Act 3 and up nightmare. And then the beginning of hell seems to be also pretty prominent here, because we've got tower, sewers level 1 and 2, jail. Those are both in Act 1, Act 1, Act 1, Act 1, Act 1. A lot of Act 1 and Act 2 zones I'm seeing here in hell difficulty. So very interesting. Anyway, as always, I do appreciate you guys and gals watching my videos, and if you're looking for a Lycander's Aim, I hope you find one, because it is a very nice bow. It's probably just not the best bow for your build, and that unfortunately is really Lycander's Aim's problem, as it's really just not the best. As always, keep watching.